Right. So, found that it's actually quite possible, and in fact, fairly easy. In fact, I made the stub code of it of doing supercuts. So,
Okay.
supercuts are where if you can generate timestamps and
Yeah.
you supply one or more audio or audio video streams, then
Hmm.
the supercut will stitch them all together and output the combined thing. And so,
Ah,
you know what I mean?
this worked really well.
Yeah,
With what I've been thinking. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's over here. It's called, funnily enough, supercut, and you basically call it with this function again, unimaginatively, supercut, and you just supply the segments in the order that you want to stitch, and you supply an array of source files. And so you could do audio, you could do video, and they can be in any order that you like. But Supercut just takes whatever because the bots can process timestamp information very well, and they can go this duration, that duration, that duration, and then they can even the
Ah,
bot
yeah,
could
yeah.
auto generate its own text to speech. Like if it wants to narrate our stuff for us, and then it generates a snippet and then says put that at time X till blah blah blah, and then you get this helpful supercut that summarizes everything and cuts out all the garbage.
Um, First of all, nice work. This will work very neatly with what I was thinking. So, I mentioned before the recording that listening back to these recordings, pausing the YouTube, and then putting narrative in is useful. Now, the thing with that would be you're actually shifting the timing on, but if it's recorded in with separate timestamps,
Yeah,
then it would still work.
yeah, because it lets you splice. Sort of like how
Yeah,
in Fight Club how he was splicing stuff in. That's the same thing.
right. And also, what it allows is if we, in our monkey brains, jump around topics, it allows those topics to be brought together in a bit more coherent way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. But it can also do it across all conversations. So if I want to call up every time that Scott said a swear word, it could do a supercut of like 150 swear words, just supercut all together. It'd be like,
yeah, it would like burn 200,000 tokens. It's like, yeah, you swear a lot, man.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that's the supercut tool. I think it's very easy to make. In fact, the sketch is already there, and then it's probably useful to prompt it because that lets us actually produce YouTube content that's quite useful. Like it's useful to a lot of people, I think, and it can also be used to showcase O1's intelligence. Because if a lot of the narration and summarization was speech to text of O1 with like a Sora video chucked in there too, that actually it's speaking smarter than we are.
um, Pause. So, are you thinking that with the supercut, you bring together across a number of transcripts the same topic, and you have the timestamps,
Yeah,
and then you ask O1 to produce some kind of narrative, and then a
yeah,
Sora, and then that's a video.
yeah,
Man, that'd be sweet.
yeah. And then it's like
It'll be
well
sweet for us
reasoned.
as well
Yeah, it's
because
well reasoned. It uses our definitions and all that. And it's sort of
mm,
like like if you look at like the Joe Rogan Experience and those kinds of podcasts, they have producers. They have very heavily edited shows where they're sort of spliced and cut, and they have like topics and background research and all sorts of like a lot of knowledge effort goes into those, and yet we can do something similar for O1, and it can actually juice up anyone's meetings. If you follow a few simple rules, you can use that to really make your meetings like smarter. Like, you were in the meeting, but when you watch the supercut, you'll be like, oh, I'm smarter now.
I think that would be awesome, even at the MVP level of transcripts
Yeah,
with
it's real simple. That's real simple.
links
Yeah.
links to the actual audio, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
audio files will be disparate.
Yeah. That's why I've been keeping the transcribe as these different NAP modules. So like speech to text doesn't differentiate on YouTube. YouTube does YouTube, but speech to text does media. And so it means that we can bring in our voice recorded meetings from yesteryear, and it gets inducted in the same, using the same NAP. You know, that's where the time's gone. That's why I actually, ashamedly, still don't have the transcript tool for you, is because I've been focusing on, first of all, doing it as a NAP, which means I need to build the NAP format and the NAP runtime and all the other stuff that requires you to, which is not trivial, but I think I'm nearly there. But also doing it in a way that was NAP to NAP, so exercising the NAP dependencies, so that it could be built as these independent bits, so that you could just, YouTube's just one thing, phone recordings is another, and it sort of doesn't really have a, it makes it composable, as opposed to just, I gave you what you asked for.
Hmm. I love this. I thought this was going to be too hard, but I thought that occurred to me yesterday while I was doing the narrative on the YouTube. Is you know how podcasters actually record the audio locally and then splice it.
Mm.
I tried that as a kind of experiment, and it works really well. So in these recordings,
Okay, so let me skip ahead a bit, and if you'll allow me to take out a loan against am I right or not, and you can tell me if I lost the gamble. So it's important when we develop these systems not to build a system that is highly reflective of the constraints of our current working environment. The view I have for the vanilla platform or the standard platform, whatever you call it, Dreamcatcher, is that you can join a meeting where you can hit the record button, and your live audio and video stream is being piped into the Dreamcatcher platform, which means that if I'm having a meeting with you, even if we're in VR and we both start up a web browser on our local machines, the computer's mic will only pick up my voice because your voice is coming in through my headset. And so that means that on both sides, we're getting clear, pure audio in a single channel. And it's not this muxed channel that comes from YouTube.
I'm good to talk.
Yeah, mate.
I'm trying to be disciplined.
And I'm also trying to deliver complete packets, as opposed to, because if I get cut off, I end up trying to stuff more packets in the thing. But now I'm like, I try to keep the packet very small, and respectfully, here's your little packet. That's the
here's my ACK to your packet. This is what I experimented with for about 30 minutes yesterday.
Right.
And it works really well. Having separate audio or even separate video, so long as there is some kind of way to reconcile the start time It doesn't need
Yeah,
to be
that's fine.
extracted.
That's all dealt with on the platform. Yeah,
Yeah. It works really well
right.
because diarization becomes,
Trivial,
it's
but it's
easy.
better. It's better than that in that even if we're both talking at the same time, having one channel per person in the audio means that you can't mess that up. You know, like transcribing two concurrent speakers is quite a feat, I think.
And I think certainly we've we've by necessity come to the etiquette of shutting up while the other's speaking,
Yeah.
but um, that is quite a large load on people to ask. But if you have different
And three
channels,
or more, and you're screwed.
yeah,
Three or more
yeah,
people, and you're like, oops.
exactly. But also, there's information about when people interrupt that we're losing because at the moment with a single audio channel, it's just it's ascribing stuff to you that I said and stuff to
Oh,
me that
right,
you
right,
said,
right, right.
because it sounds like a single piece of thought or text. It's not doing a very good job, basically. So the TLDR is, I love what the route you're going down, and yesterday I tested it manually by having these two audio channels where I was listening to the YouTube and then I was talking a narrative and adding in additional cognitive links between it,
Mm. So let's
and it works really well.
yeah, that's
I mean,
I
that once
also
came
feel like
free.
it's important for me to table what the plans I have for that type of conferencing system,
Hmm.
so that when you're thinking about these things, you can use it to tune where you choose to spend more time or less time.
Hmm.
So just hooking up the audio seems pretty straightforward, but the next stage is doing inference live. So you want to be able to take the all the streams, transcribe them, and continually be running them through a model to be like, did we just topic switch? Is this a new topic? What's relevant? And it's running on the side or on like the meeting dashboard, and it shows you when it's detected a topic, or when it's interpreted what you're saying, and it's doing some deep reasoning, like it's checking for logical fallacies, or it's asking for more information, like saying you need to say, what did you mean when you said blah blah blah, that type of thing.
Um, I agree wholeheartedly, but also the temporal aspect of it. It's like Scott talked about this 30 days ago. He said he was going to do this, and he didn't, and now he's saying, you know, whatever. So the reasoning is unbounded, of course, but the real time, feedback on a dashboard as you're talking would keep everyone honest. It's like,
Yeah. So
use.
all yeah. What I'm trying to get across there is I just want to let you know what I'm thinking in terms of architecture, so that you can be you know aware. That's all.
Is
That's all.
there? My question would be, I really, although O1 got really slow in the window that I had between about 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. Um, the is it fruitful for me to go down to this, listening to the YouTube, pausing the YouTube, putting narrative in terms of conceptual links, or
I don't think so. It's useful to make note of the technique so that we can come back to it, because the delicate balance that both of us have to do respectively is to also do the job whilst figuring out how to make the job better. And so your job is to do the transcription, extract the stucks, do the project management any way possible, um, whilst having a side eye on how to make different tools. And just like my job is to write the code any way possible, whilst having a side eye on how to make that process better. So
I agree with that.
that's how I think about that.
I might, I think I probably will though, continue to use this because of a couple of things. I always listen to these recordings afterwards, and previously I was just taking handwritten notes.
Right.
By recording the audio and then pausing the playback to put in a narrative thing, I'm getting higher quality feedback into the commander. The commander knows
Right.
where the links are.
Yeah. What strategies you go down is entirely your choice. My commentary on that will be only as far as how I can give you tools to help that. The supercut tool is kind of turns out exactly what you want, I think. But also it'll be very simple to make you a tool that would, in the state board, let you play the video and then you hit pause, but pause is like record, and so like record and pause are bound together, so you hit record and then that is you start speaking, and then that's making the supercut live. Like, that's a trivial little thing to make if you find that technique useful.
That will be useful because one of the things I lost was because I was pausing it. I lost timestamps because I'm now talking for 30 seconds in the middle of
right.
paused video.
Yeah. So even so.
Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. I just did that inspiration of I don't know, whatever it is.
Inhalation of inspiration.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So.
So the to wind up this topic.
Is this a save? When's the save coming?
Excellent point. Stand by one. So with the save, I'm going to mute, and I'm going to record my own notes for my benefit. Is there a way to see how far through this conversation we are, timestamp-wise, before I do this? No. It's all right. I'll do it by topic. Okay, going on mute. There you go. Was that too jarring? I don't know.
No, it's fine. And then what'll happen there is that'll just get supercut out. So who even cares? You know what I mean?
Good point. Yeah.
Um,
Well, the fact that you weren't talking and I wasn't talking
yeah,
means it
well, I
doesn't
got
come
to
out in the
actually think.
transcript.
I got to think some more, so that's it's great.
Yeah.
There was one more thing I wanted to add in there. Oh yeah, like I actually do what you're doing already. I listen to the recording and then I hit pause and then I take some notes, or write some notes in my um, notebook here.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same thing.
Uh, would
But
it
I
be
guess
possible for you to try recording your notes, even if you
no,
say timestamp
no, I'd find
or
that too
something?
hard. But because oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm like building on an existing note as well. So
Ah,
so what I really think we need is a tree where you're like, here's the trunk of the tree is the meeting that we had, and then there's like annotations that are tacked onto it that sort of lead to other things that relate to it. So it would be us sort of linking in bits and pieces across the knowledge graph, which we would expect the bot to then process more. So you could sort of jack into things that you've said before. The bot might not know those connections, but you do, and so you kind of connecting it up.
yes, I agree, and that's why it came to mind because um, even with giving all the transcripts over December, it doesn't have anything wider than that to pull on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But by pausing it and saying this
yeah,
relates to this other topic,
yeah.
let me tell you about that
The
topic.
thing that's bothering me immensely, like starting to uh, make me feel very anxious, is the fact that I should be able to have a system that when I go away and do something else, it's walking the knowledge base for me for hours, like refining, just grinding and grinding over, tracing down theoretical connections and all that, like it shouldn't just be when I push the button it runs and then a few minutes later it's back. It should be enough of a workload that it could go for hours.
I agree with that. I've had a similar but not same thought in having cron jobs kicking off, uh, where we've got a new transcript. Go and grind it.
Yeah, but
I go for a walk.
the grind should be going on all the time so that new information comes in, like a new article is published on the New York Times, or there's a significant stock price movement, or anything else. There can be a range of different triggers that just add to this grinding that's going on. Like that's a knowledge base. Is this
So
thing?
if we
Yeah,
had an always on AI that when we shut up and walk off and do stuff,
it's
it
still
is just grinding away.
grinding, grinding,
Right. It
grinding.
it could be pushing information to us,
Yeah,
perhaps,
when
but
it finds something, yeah,
even if it's pull, we come back and saying, right, what we found out.
yeah,
Well, there's been another drop from OpenAI
or anything like that, right?
and
And
that
then
sort of thing.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
we get the watchtower. We have a solution to the watchtower stuck, and then that lets us see, jack into the world.
How practically would that be done?
The
Because at the
watchtower.
moment it's all, well, it's all prompt response at the moment.
Yeah, but you can say to it, um, here's figure out a plan, and here's your objective, right? And let's say that the plan was to um, go through every note in my notebook and look for relations to the current conversation. Like that's a
Um,
grinding task.
that is a grinding task, but I'm thinking more on the watchtower piece. For example, I mean, naively, you could make this a cron job. You kick off every 15 minutes, and we previously said what our aims are, um, and we're looking for contraindications from the real world. And so we have a bunch of news outlets, for example,
Yeah.
that we trust, and then go and scrape them every 15 minutes and then check them against that and check
Yeah.
them against our current thinking,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Sort of
But that
thing. Yeah.
sounds quite a naive kind of
Well, it's
implementation.
better than what we got now. I mean, at the moment, I have this little folder of bookmarks that opens nine different tabs, and then I just look at all those things and be like, "Has anything changed?" It's the Watchtower is really just automating that. That's all. Like and doing like slow burn watches as well, like a software project that might take a few months to get to improve. Put the
Yeah,
Watchtower on it.
and yeah, this it's not the same, but it strays closely into one of my wish lists, which is hey, it's Christmas tomorrow. It's like, is it? It's like, okay, what did I buy my wife last year and why? So there's like, so, it's not only constant grind, but it's on triggers, as in dates, like a cron job. But
It all sounds part of
it sounds
the same
identical, doesn't
system.
it?
Yeah.
And then, well, it doesn't matter if it's pull or push. You
Right.
can go and ask.
Okay. So,
But okay,
I think we can end that
you,
exercise with that one, right?
I didn't answer your question about whether that would be useful. I think that'd be very useful.
Oh yeah, yeah. You answered it implicitly by asking for more.
Yeah.
Did you like the dessert? Oh, well, I
It's
was
like, can I have another serving? It's like, you didn't answer the question. Did you like this?
yeah.
No, I
So
didn't.
I got two other things to table.
Mm-hmm.
One is the house rules, and the
Mm-hmm.
other one is a automated GitHub issue resolution system. I haven't asked you for things that you'd like to table. Um, but before we do that, I didn't get an indication from you that you were asking me, should you pursue that line of investigation of doing this transcription with the audio, and I said, actually, I don't care. Your job is to do the project management. Just like I have to make the code. You don't care if I have a cool system or what. It's still my job to produce the code in a timely fashion. And so it's your job to produce the project management in a timely fashion whilst trying to figure out things that help you now, things that you want to put a request to me to help you make a tool, things like that, right? Because
My,
the answer to do I think that it's good what you're doing? I don't know. It sounds okay, but I don't know. Like,
it sounds in tune with what you're doing, and I will pursue it because um, I listen to.
no, I wasn't asking for details on why you were going to pursue it. I was
I'll
asking for
pursue it.
details on the strategy of it's your primary responsibility to do the project management, and these things
Yes.
must not be at the expense of that primary task.
This is right on the core because the commander's value requires high quality input in terms of these conversations, and this is improving the quality of the input into the commander. Therefore, it's right on the core path for me on the commander, I believe.
Okay. So how are you getting on with the induction of the Stucks from the previous 3 nights recordings?
Um, the induction of the stocks is stalled last night. However, there's no barrier to that because that's a path that I know works. It was just running really slowly.
Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay. So it is
Uh,
true to say that we can expect updated stocks from the previous meetings because I'm actually hanging out for those because I need those so that I can do some further expansion on them.
yes,
And I'm not.
you
I'm holding off from doing it myself because I'm like, well, you're doing it, so that would be not a good use of time.
you'll get the stocks from our last three meetings, and also include the one from our friend in Canada. That
Cool.
conversation, if
Oh,
that
awesome. Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
generates,
Awesome.
because
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay then.
Um,
Would you like to save anything?
um, no, because that was my that's my task intention anyway, so I don't need to take a time out to save any of that.
Okay.
That's just
All
an
right.
assertion.
May I table a second idea?
Please do.
Okie dokie. So, what I want to table is the notion of house rules. And so, what occurred to me is that it's one thing to get very high quality transcriptions, but it's more useful to also have a protocol. And then I was like, well, everyone has this. And so some of the questions I asked was like, what are some parliamentary rules and what are some blah blah blah, right? All these different rules here, there, and everywhere. And so after some chats with O1 Pro, um, I arranged on this as a incomplete starter for 10, but it's not about the implementation that I want to table. It's about the concept and just to test the waters with you about the um I can see you nodding. That's helpful. That's actually very helpful. Thank you. Um, the concept around things like the commander having a mode, the commander being treated like the speaker of the house, the concept of votes is a big one I'd like to spend some time on. I just kind of want to go through these modes one by one with you and just dive into them a bit because how we make the system that conducts the meeting as well as that system giving you live intelligence as you go and how scalable and saleable that thing is a question that we have to answer because we're making useful tools. Useful tools are saleable. How much do we make? How much do we not? What paths do you like? Which paths do you not? Index.
So the reference is in NAP's reasoning stocks, this repo evals and house rules.md. And
No, it's just in the root of the reasoning nap called houserules.md. That's not you're not in this folder.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I
You're just in the reasoning folder.
in reasoning. Okay. The reading through this, the thought, which maybe we want to have as an additional mode, which is a side thought, which doesn't need to be considered, but it's just something that occurs to you, is that we're in VR, and you just said nodding is really helpful. And there may well be other things we can do in VR which are visual and don't get put into the transcript and don't need to be discussed. So, end side note. Outside of that, shall we go through this list? What do you want to do?
That was the question that I put to you. We should go through this list. So I'll take you through it one at a time. First of all, overall, the concept of modes. So a mode would indicate that the commander is really the speaker of the house. And when you're in the speaker's house, you need to set it into a mode to indicate what you're trying to do. Because otherwise, when you're just trying to have free form conversation, it'd be like trying to run Parliament in a free form. So, do you agree or have anything to add to that being an important principle of how these meetings should go?
I entirely agree.
Okay, great.
And Parliament's a good model.
Okay, great. Obviously, we need something lighter than Parliament, and jokes, smarter than Parliament. but you know, it's not. Yeah. So okay, so since we agree that there are modes, and just a side note I want to make sure we catch up on is the ability to detect follies or fallacies that have occurred. So if I forget to bring that up, please remind me. The first of the modes, tabling mode. When you trigger this mode, you'd say, Commander, we table ideas, and then, or whatever. And then the point of that is that it would allow, if everyone agrees, like you can veto a mode switch. Like you can be like, hang on, I haven't finished, or I need to go to the toilet, or whatever. And you can tear it halfway through. Like if someone says Commander table, and the idea is rubbish, you can be like, vote to dismiss, or motion to dismiss, or whatever they say in Star Wars when they're in that sort of grand sort of a thing. But the point is that when you switch the commander into table mode, the point is that you're introducing the idea, and you're the only type of communication that's allowed back in from other people is clarifying questions in a timely fashion, as well as the key value that we can get from the AI is that a lot of the intellectual tasks that are the intelligence tasks that are happening within a meeting are actually better done by a bot, such as critical thinking, relation to world events, economic cost, all that. The bot is actually better at doing that, and so the meetings and the modes of the commander should be structured so that the humans don't actually get into that themselves, because that's a waste of human time, but rather the bot gets into that, runs a bunch of standard checks and balances and all that, and then the humans would look at the completed view and be like, oh, you didn't think of this, you didn't think of that, you didn't think of that, whatever. And so table mode is really, just like all the modes, it's about inducing a certain type of knowledge extraction from the humans so that the bot can process it, which is now the whole point of any meeting. It's no longer the information transmission between the people. It's about getting it into the bot in a format that the bot can run with it. That's the philosophical change now. The bot is the commander in Dex.
Absolutely. I like this a lot. And I do also like that while tabling, you're talking to the commander.
Yeah, that was the thing. The bot suggested that because I was like, oh, we've got this problem. My colleague and I, we want to have these meetings, but how should we do it? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you should talk to the commander like the Speaker of the House. You should say, Commander, because apparently that's how they get around the problem of, like, when you're in Parliament, you always have to talk to the Speaker. You're not actually speaking to each individual.
That's right. Although in the UK, there's a lot of hears, but you're not giving any information, and all you're doing is just making noise to show that
Support.
you agree
Yeah,
with.
yeah. Support.
I like that. Okay,
Okay.
so tabling mode, just so I understand this,
So this is a clarifying question coming in from you.
this is exactly a clarifying mode. So we're you've talking to the commander now, raising meeting modes, and you've just gone through the brief of it, and the point being, we talk to the commander as the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. It's the commander's house that we are in.
Yeah, the fallacy checker I want to talk about, but not yet, I think. I want to go through those other modes.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why you're doing this.
Oh, I was just okay. We're ready to carry on.
Yeah. It's just an interesting.
Well,
interesting
this was
trade.
this was my I'll jump over to, if I may, to my side point.
Mm.
So there's a book called Clean Code, and then in that book, what they have is a list of rules in the appendix that says what clean is and what it isn't, and examples of it and all that. And so, for example, they categorize it under comments, like how to do clean comments, environment, functions, general, and names, right? Now, if you let me get to the end of this is going to be a bit of an inflated example because I'm struggling to say what it actually is. But if you let me get it out in an expanded form, and then I'll take clarifying questions to condense it down. So, for example, the clean code comments. It's like never use /to do, blah blah blah. Don't put sensitive information in your comments, blah blah. So these all make sense. But what the thing I want to highlight with this presenting this type of thing is that they have given it a like a almost like an index number, like C1. It's like comments sin number 1, a quick short name, inappropriate information, obsolete comment, redundant comment, poorly written comment, right? They got the whole thing, right? Environment, E1, build requires more than one step, E2, blah, blah, blah. Now, what am I getting at here? It is possible to go through the list of meetings that we have. Whoopsie, not that one. Not that one. And say to ourselves, how do we make a similar list of highly tight, like error 1, redundancy, and error 2, irrelevant history? And I'm really sorry that these are things that I've had to dig at you personally about. I needed a starter for 10, and obviously the issues that I have are easy to use as examples. That's all that they're meant to be. They're not trying to have a backhanded dig at all. We all have our little nuances and fallacies in meetings, and I'm sure that you could come up with some for me. But what I'm really trying to get at is that there is a general, universal set of faults or errors that occur in meetings that the bots can pick up. And if we categorize them, I think that just using a couple of viewpoints from people, we could make a 99% categorization of all the meeting faults. Overcomplicated examples, scope creep, unclear agenda. Like these are all able to be very succinctly labeled and numbered, and the conclusion I present as the idea is that whilst these meetings are occurring, these tags can be flicking up on the meeting dashboard so that people are getting these visual cues that they are falling afoul of optimum efficiency in the communication that they're presenting, so that they first of all can stop it immediately, but second of all can start to train themselves out of habits that have formed from the old way of talking. But ultimately, because it is the commander's house, with enough transgressions, the commander can actually boot someone. And it took away the problematic etiquette of, I don't want to kick this guy out of my meeting because, he might be my boss, or he's my colleague, I need to get on with him, right? If the commander kicked you, it's not your fault, Index.
I love this idea. Um, and whatever the list turns out to be, I'm sure we can get a start for 10 quite easily.
Yeah, right.
But essentially, we're talking about a well defined etiquette, which, again, in Parliament, there certainly is an etiquette. I would say that there's probably two types where the commander pulls you up on one of these things, these transgressions, or just gives you, yellow card. And there also needs to be an etiquette that the commander doesn't instigate, like objection, in a court. You say
Yeah,
something and say
yeah, right.
objection.
Like if we formalize all that, then we can really start to get moving. And I think that
Yeah.
um, making it in natural language, people should be able to reprogram the commander to suit their needs. Like that might be too heavy for some people, but for others, they may want some more rigor or some different rigor or different trigger words or whatever. But the whole gist is that this intelligence comes in, and it can point out your failings, man, in real time.
I love this idea.
Okay,
And
cool.
I'll, I'll save.
Saving,
Give me
saving.
20 seconds.
Go for gold. Thank you.
And back in the room.
Okay, dokie. Just heads up, I gotta leave in 11 minutes. That's the
Yeah,
time
no
remaining.
worries. No worries. God, I hope I'm not getting ill again. I don't think I am. I don't feel it. I'll just keep on coughing. So, what would you like me to do in order to propose, or would you like me to look through these meeting modes and propose whether this is complete and correct? Do you want me to suggest stuff or just
No,
do it?
actually, what I want is actually given in one of these modes is the sort of background motivation, which is to say that it should be enough that you can do that on your own using the bot, because the key driver is that we as the humans. Hang on a minute, mate. It's bloody cold in here. The key driver is that we as the humans are used to having to do all the intelligence ourselves, but now we have a machine that is smarter than us, and they just keep getting smarter. And so the sooner we can adopt to a mode where our communication acts as a seeding or a starting, it's an alignment exercise between the two of us, and then we both go off and drive the bots to do the rest, and a certain amount of automation, and the bots will do it for us. And so what I want from you with these modes is I want to quickly skim them, get some clarification questions from you, if you feel like you need to ask them, so that we understand the essence of the problem space, so that we can then depart and use the bots to build towards these modes.
Clarification question.
Sure.
Um, there are we talking about two drops? The first one being offline, where we go through the transcript, and then we can use bots to look for these modes and then make it tighter. And the
Yes.
second
So
drop
first,
being live.
first one is we'll adopt the policies and then manually do it. So we'll use these modes ourselves, and then what we learn from that will sort of guide our implementation, and then it's the live thing, with the leverage being that it feels like the Dreamcatcher platform, if it is to be a communication network, it needs to have this ability to have AI boosted conferencing and real time communication and audio streaming and all that. That all feels like a very key part of the system, and so I think that's time well spent. I have a side point, but I'll pause there.
I also have a side point. So how do we?
Oh dear, double side.
How do,
Okay, I'll say my
you go for
side
yours.
point. I'll say it as a single sentence, and you say yours as a single sentence, and then at least we've sort of notched them forwards. On the notion of clarifying questions coming in, if we think about how to scale the system beyond just two people, a friend of mine has spent a lot of time making a social network tool that lets large groups of people pre-record their questions, and then the questions get played in like on Talkback Radio, which the bots could easily manage for us. That's my side point.
That's a good one, which I've got thoughts on, all positive. My side point is inside of these modes, I think it's quite important to link it to documents. So in Parliament, for example, you table a paper and then you expect everyone to have read that paper, but also the AI,
Yes,
importantly, reads the paper.
recall my statements about the infrastructure or the program that I will supply for you, that whilst the meeting is taking place, your focus within the Dreamcatcher platform, so which documents are brought into context, which lines you've selected, what you're showing, that will all be in a transcript too at the same time. So the context will come with it as well, and we'll just build it out more and more and more.
That would answer that. Albeit that the etiquette would also mean that you don't go off and shop on Amazon halfway through, or just lose context and so on. So again, down to
No, you could, because it's also essential that we put into this platform a browser. And so, worst case, you should be browsing through the Dreamcatcher platform, so that everyone can see what you're talking about, and that web page is captured for the AI to analyze as it extracts the knowledge for you.
yes, I agree with that. I guess it was slightly a facetious thing in that you need to stay on topic and not go to some kind of tempest WhatsApp going, oh, where was it, and so on, because you really want
Is
to be
this
talking
adding?
about
Is this adding to the point? I feel like this is a finer detail that's losing punch with every bounce.
It's a side point. To talk to your side point, I quite like the idea of chunks of questions like talk radio, but I'm not sure that would.
Hang on. You busy introduce ideas without immediate criticism. I haven't even tabled the idea of the side point. I just noted it that I'd like to come back and table it, and you are criticizing the idea.
I stand corrected.
Sit corrected, whatever it is that makes you happy. So even this exercise of having some kind of structure to our conversations is actually quite good too, I think. Okay, may I proceed with my side point? Or do you consider that side point like you feel like you kind of get it and it's so minor that you'd like to move along? Because that's fine too.
I
I
I
got four
believe I get
minutes.
it.
I got
I
4 minutes.
believe I get it. I think we can mark that as work in progress.
All right.
But yes.
Okay, so may I proceed to probably the most important point of this document? And I'll just quickly bang this one out, and then I better do the upload and get going. Is there anything from your side that I'm cutting off by doing this? No? Okay, cool. So the key thing, now, the issue when you've only got two people is that you don't really need a vote, because you know what you want and the other person knows what they want, and you know, it's like it doesn't really sway it. Okay, now it does seem that there is a fallacy of communication that I think we're prone to sometimes, is that it's okay to disagree and you can move on with a disagreement, but there's a type of fallacy that if you fall into that trap, you can't move forwards until you get the agreement from the other person, right? So obviously in a large group, that problem is, it's only possible to be that. The bot called it the lockstepper, because the fallacy is a person who needs everyone in the group to be in lockstep before they can move on to the next step, which is inefficient for obvious reasons, but it's not obvious when there's only two of you. However, a group of 100, immediately that doesn't work. So what's critical to introduce, even in the pair of us, is voting. And voting is important to me because voting means DAO. Voting means the concept of autonomous companies that are coming real soon. And the voting is about like some sort of command and control or some sort of reins on these autonomous companies. And I think that voting, even between two people, is good, because we can do relative voting. Like what I think is, you know, if you're like, well, what should I do tomorrow, Mr. Maxwell? If I put a 100 units on making the NAP format and you put a 1,000 units on doing the transcriber, those mean different things as opposed to just a straight yes, no. And so voting mode is something that I think that the commander should initiate, because it indicates, it's a kind of a very formal index, because it's saying that, there's an interesting thing when you're talking about the topic of index. Will the bot interpret index and be like, index, whatever? Anyway, you can have fun in the transcription with that. Index. But the voting mode is if the commander's driving it, then the key thing where we're trying to give an element of control to the commander is that the commander should be able to cast a vote to index.
That makes sense. I like the value-based voting where you have 100 tokens if you really care about it.
Yeah.
Or if you don't really care.
Yeah.
You can vary that. The triggering of the vote, I think we need some thought. The commander could do it. You, for example, banged on too long. Move on, guys. Let's take it to a vote. I think it's important that the commander also records minority reports when it's more than two, if it's 100 people, and 20 really disagree, and 80 very much agree. Those 20, that's important information. Other than that, I agree that a voting mode is a good way of moving on with the topic, other than the speaker saying index, which is now in the transcript as well. Yeah. And so the votes are quite essential to tie back to
the crypto community, because that's sort of what they tried to get going with DAOs, but they couldn't. Um,
Clarifying question. Clarifying question. I want to. Clarifying question is the um, uh, the votes themselves. Are they only applicable to people who turn up at the meeting and therefore have heard the full conversation?
no, it's not a. It's not a. You're trying to extract information. Whatever the vote is, it's valuable information. It's like when the sale price of a share, it's supposed to contain information. The commander uses all of that to make its decisions. That's really the point of it.
Okay, follow-on question then.
Yep.
The reason I was asking is inside of a meeting, it's obvious to me that voting mode is a good thing because it makes people shut up and let's just decide, or let's decide not to decide and move on. But in a larger case, this is a side note and not for particular discussion, but something we need to think about. If the community was very large and people who didn't attend the meeting then listen to the transcript
Mm.
or talk to the bot, you should be able to
Yeah,
vote
absolutely.
and wait
Absolutely.
after that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
end of side note.
Okay. Last little thing. Speakeasy mode is just a mode that seemed like, if you put the commander into speakeasy, then it's like permission to speak free, permission to freak speely, and then you just you can ramble on and whatever. But the key thing is that while you're in speakeasy mode, you can still be calling out points and side notes and things to be reminded of, and the commander should be capturing all that so that when you go back into game mode, the stack of side notes and topics that you referenced in Speakeasy is still there for you. It's just it's not always feasible to have a chat in a very formal environment. My hope is that with these modes and this rigor, we should be able to conduct not only a good, very punchy, highly AI accelerated meetings between you and I for maximum knowledge extraction for minimum human time, but we should be able to scale it to 3, 4, maybe 50 different people. And then once it's scaled up, um, that's a really useful tool. It should also support this protocol, should always support asynchronous communication, which is kind of what you were getting at with the voting mode thing. And so this style of knowledge extraction, where it's all about the knowledge extraction, it's all about using AI to do the things that humans aren't that great at and humans just sort of watch over it, should also support asynchronous activity. And that's all I have to say for the day.
Commander, permission to freak speezy.
Freak Speezy.
I like freak speezy. I like it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's slightly humorous. Number two, it's never going to be said in normal
Yeah,
context.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Which is the keywords selection. But I love this. I love this concept, and
Mm.
it can be is multi-modal, isn't it? I mean, you could apply this if the people turning up or the people who are part of the community agree on the etiquette, then everyone
Yeah.
gets on. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole point of
yeah.
it.
It's good. Buddy, I gotta go.
Love it.
May
Yeah,
I
no
stop the
worries.
recording?
Yeah.
All right.